I've heard a lot of couples say, like, when they get married, oh, we want to be like financially ready and we want to like be prepared before we have kids. We want to like have everything in line. And let me just tell you, you can't.
70 or 80% of the people that I knew ended up getting divorced. I've always been thankful how you stuck by me and supported and loved me during those times. I always felt like if I couldn't also be successful in our relationship and in my relationship with the girls, it really doesn't matter what success I had at work, because I feel like what's the most important thing? Who's going to be there for you in your times of trouble? It might not be your company. Welcome to a special episode of the Josh Speaks podcast. I'm joined here today by my beautiful bride, Jess, in our living room, and we're just going to talk about marriage and relationships and career, and we'll see where this goes. So I'm super excited. Let's start with how long we've been married. Just over 20 years, 20 and a half.
20 and almost 20 and a half.
Okay.
Good.
Yes, got that. And do we want to tell the people how we met?
No, we don't.
So
People get laughed at.
So when we met online, and I was on every online site that they had at that time. And Jess was on a 2-week trial for one of the websites I was on, which was christiancafe.com. I'm not sure if that's still an active website or not.
There's so many now. So.
But at the time we met, it was still very new and suspect. So I don't know if you want to tell the story about how your mom...
Yeah, so it was actually my mom's idea,
Yeah.
because a friend of hers had told her that her son met his wife online. And so my mom was like, why don't you try that? Why don't you get on? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Because why? Because
you get laughed at 20 years later.
yeah, nobody like meets people online, right? You're like, yeah.
Back then, well, I mean, I think we've already like moved past the phase where it was cool, but back then it wasn't cool, and then it was cool, and now it's not cool again.
According to our kids, anyway, it's
yeah,
like not cool.
So when my mom suggested it, of course I was like, no. But when my parents were actually out of town, so they wouldn't know that I did it. I did it, because I just didn't want her to be like, oh.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like that's how I came across his profile. I think you messaged me first.
I did.
At least that's what I remember. So
I did. Yeah, I was working a lot at the time and figured it would be a good, healthy place to meet someone instead of at a club or a bar or just randomly. I didn't have any like other social places I was at. The church I was at, there was really no one there that I was interested in. So it seemed like a great idea, and it turned out fantastic. I don't think me and Jess would have ever met had it not been for that website, because we lived about 45 minutes apart, went to different schools, had no mutual friends. So,
but that was 45 minutes highway, not 45 minutes in Orlando.
Right. Yeah. It would be like an hour and a half in Orlando.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's like, it's much further in Tampa for that. But,
so a funny story about that I read like all the FAQs about what to do. And so when we first started talking, I was like, I wanted to meet like right away, because they said like, don't wait too long to meet, because then it could be weird or you could like get friend zoned. And so I'm like trying to set up a meet, like, I don't remember. Do you remember? Like,
within days. Yeah.
So, and then like your parents were like, what if he's a axe murderer or something? I don't remember. Do you remember like what they said? But they were like not pro meeting.
Which is funny, because she was the one who told me to get online, but then when to meet in person, she was like, oh, they were just concerned about me meeting him all by myself. So, but before I even met you, they wanted, like, I don't know if they asked for it or if you offered it. But
I offered it because I was trying to make it happen.
He sent over his license and your real estate license. I forget what else.
I sent my driver's license, my real estate license, my pastor's phone number.
Oh yeah,
and a link to like a Department of like Florida criminal website to show that I didn't have a criminal record.
I don't remember that.
And I was like, hey, like I'm a reputable person. I'm not an axe murderer. Like, please let your daughter meet me.
Yeah.
And
Well, I was living at home at the time, so it was kind of, yeah. But I ended up taking a friend with me when we met, and we met at a,
Bennigan's,
public
one of my
place.
favorite
And most people probably don't know what that
restaurants.
is.
If you don't know what that is, I'm sorry that you missed out, because it was really great. And when the Great Recession happened, this is a little off topic, but when the Great Recession happened and Bennigan's closed, that was a really sad day for me. That's when I knew the recession was real, because that was like, that was a special place to us. And there is one now in Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
It's like not totally the same, but it's
really only
close
looks
enough.
the same. The food
Yeah,
isn't
it's
really
way
the
different.
same, but it's the name. So we have gone there before, but
Yeah. So I remember seeing your picture, and you had on a red shirt and some balloons. And it was your 21st
it was from my 21st birthday. Yeah.
And you looked really cute. You had a great smile. And I was like, I got to message her.
Josh
And
was
the rest is history.
His picture was him standing next to a jet ski with his shirt
I
off.
was thirst trapping a little bit. Sorry about that.
Tried to attract me. I was just, because I hadn't gotten a lot of messages from people that looked like I wanted to talk to them. So I was like, oh, hey, this guy, he's kind of cute. So we ended up meeting, I think it was about 2 weeks after we initially started talking. We met up,
right.
and then I didn't eat for the first few dates.
I did.
That's my nervousness. But anyways, and so we just went on from there. And I think we took turns whose house we would hang out for the weekend. So we didn't really see each other during the week.
We talked on the phone a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Which I think was good.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was a really great foundation for our relationship, because when you first meet somebody and you really like each other and you're attracted to each other, sometimes physical attraction can just take over. And I feel like us being able to have these really long, sometimes controversial conversations, it just really got us off to a good start to kind of know who each other was and where each other was at. And we had both been in a serious relationship before we started dating, and so we kind of shared the ins and outs of that, and just kind of where we were at and what we were wanting in a relationship. And so I just feel like that the talking really helped. It really, I think, made us get closer faster.
For sure.
Because we got engaged 7 months after we met. Yeah. And then married 9 months later. So when we got married, we only knew each other for 1 year and 4 months. And when we tell our girls that, they're like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. But we both just felt like, not that we didn't have some rocky parts, which I think was good, because we did get to a point where we were like, is this going to work? About, 6 months in? 4 or 5 months in? I don't remember.
Yeah. It was right after Greg died, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So a big mentor in my life, Greg Poss, shout out to Greg Poss, anybody who knows him. He was my youth pastor who helped bring me closer to the Lord. And he ended up being a life mentor for me. And he had a heart defect that he was born with. And he tragically passed away. And it was really hard for me, because he was like the person I called if I had a hard spiritual question or life question. And so at that time in my life, my parents' marriage was starting to fail or had just failed.
Yeah.
And
There was already, yeah.
I was going through a lot. There was some financial stuff that happened with that. And losing him at that time was just really difficult. And so, and I just, not something I expected to happen at that time. So I was starting from a deficit, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to deal with those feelings. So I just wanted to bottle them up and not talk about it. And she wanted to talk about it, because that's a normal thing to do. And so it caused me to want to pull away from you at that time. And I remember you had a good friend who said, just let him go. And I said, 'cause I think I said I needed a couple weeks.
I think
Right.
it was a couple weeks.
And the idea of that was kind of terrifying probably at the time, because we talked every day, like
Yeah.
for long periods of time at that point. So it was a very sudden, potentially long in relative terms, time that we wouldn't talk.
Right.
And you decided to honor that request.
Yeah. Grudgingly or begrudgingly. What?
Yeah.
I did not want to.
And so I lasted about 48 hours.
I think that's what it was, 48 hours.
Yeah. And so then I called her. I don't know if did you answer right away? I don't
I'm
remember.
pretty sure I did. Yeah. But at that point, we kind of talked about where we were both at, like in the relationship, and what we both wanted from the relationship. Because I think that even though we both were like on the same path, like we wanted to get married, we wanted to be with each other, there were certain things that we wanted from each other, or that we needed from each other, that we weren't sure the other person was going to be willing to do. And so I kind of gave him like, this is what I need. Like, these are the things that I kind of need from our relationship. And he kind of said like, these are the things that I need. And so we were kind of like, okay, let's try to make this work, you know? I don't think either of the things that we shared with each other were like earth shattering, like surprising, you know? But we kind of had to know like, these are the things that we needed and to be able to move forward. And so.
Something that I remember, I don't know if you want to share this, so we can cut this if you need to. Is,
I don't know what you're going to say.
One of the things I remembered when you said that was that I was kind of like, I'm busy.
Yeah,
my
I know what you're
career's
gonna
going. What I really need from you is I need you to like kind of just fall into my life and like come over to my side of town a lot and like just be with me.
Yeah,
when I need you to be there. Like it was.
He was kind of letting me know like he really wasn't wanting to change much about his life and how his life was. He just wanted me to kind of become a part of his life. And that was.
This is not prescriptive. This is descriptive. Okay, so I'm not recommending this. I'm just saying this is like where we were at.
Yeah, that wasn't gonna fly. So
I don't know why she didn't like that. I don't know. It was weird.
So I don't remember how we got to a better point, but we did. So
I became less selfish slowly over time. I wouldn't have described myself as a selfish person, but I think something great about marriage, something hard and great at the same time, I think, is that marriage will cause you it will expose things in your life that maybe you're not aware of and cause you to work on things like at a very deep level.
Absolutely.
That if you're not in that kind of an intimate relationship, it may never surface. You know, like I had at that time really no awareness of how selfish I was and how messed up of a statement that was to make. So thanks for not like dumping me and never talking to me again when I said that. 'Cause
Josh, I feel like you started a career at a really young age, and I feel like you kind of grew up a little fast. Like, I mean, I know a lot of guys can tend to do that, but Josh was kind of like, I'm already here, I'm already established, I've already got this, I've already got that. Like, he already had everything like planned out, and so it was hard for him to be like, wait a minute, I'm not changing any of this stuff. Like, he already lived out on his own. I didn't. I moved out for a short period of time when I was in college, but then I moved home. So I was technically still living at home with my parents. He had been moved out for at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. You moved out when you were
19.
At 19, yeah. So he had kind of already had like everything the way he liked it. He was very independent. And so for him to kind of like shift and be like, okay, this is like, you're going to be included in this now. Like, we had to kind of learn that. So, you know, going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I remember something else from our marriage counseling that we did with my pastor, which I'm maybe share some thoughts about that. But he, I don't know if you remember exactly how he said it, but it was like after we talked a bunch and had some sessions, he was like, a big danger for you guys is that Josh is like really dialed in on his career, and you're really dialed in and talked a lot about family and raising kids and making a home. And he was like, Josh, your focus is here and her focus is there. And you guys got to figure that out and come together.
I don't remember that. What I will say about the premarital counseling is that I think it's really good to do before you get married. But I would recommend somebody that you both kind of know, if possible, like that, or just somebody
Or
neutral in general that you both
Yeah.
don't really know very well. Because when we had our premarital counseling, I feel like he kind of sided with Josh a lot with everything. And so I left really frustrated. But I do feel like it helped us like have hard conversations and talk about things that we may not have discussed before and kind of, going into that. Something that I remember when Josh and I were dating, that made me know the moment that I was going to marry him was, Josh loves when I tell this story.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't.
We were coming home. He was coming to drop me off at my parents' house, and we were arguing about something, who knows what. But I tended to throw temper tantrum, as I would call it, even though I was an adult, because I didn't get my way. And so I got out of the car and slammed the door and ran up to the door, thinking like he's going to run after me. And he pulled away and drove all the way home, 45 minutes away.
I was like, I'm out.
No phone call, nothing. I don't think there was texting back then.
I mean, it was like hard and long. Like,
And I was like looking out the window, like,
Where'd
he
he go?
go? But that after my initial shock, that moment was like, oh man, this guy's not going to let me get away with throwing temper tantrums. He's not going to let me get away with acting like that. And that was something that I knew I needed, kind of like how Josh was talking before, like stuff comes out, like when you're in a relationship and in marriage, it like makes you better. And I knew that's something that I needed. I needed to learn how to communicate better. I needed to learn how to show my frustration without throwing a temper tantrum when I didn't get my way. So that was one of the things that I was like, oh gosh, this is gonna work. He's gonna put me in my place and let me know when I'm out of line. And so I always told people that story.
at the time, I didn't know it was going to be like an epic lore story, but that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah. So then after we got married, we kind of mutually decided to move to Orlando.
Yeah.
And you started your career over here.
Yes, I did. It was a humble beginning. We were excited to be married and be on our own, and I think Orlando was it was close enough to family to where it wasn't like overwhelming to travel back, but it was like far enough to where we felt like we had like our own space and our own like life. And it was just an opportunity that I had with the company at the time. I ended up having to leave my dad's company. That could be a whole other episode to go into that. But I was sitting in my office at my dad's company talking to one of the account executives, is what they were called, as a salesperson who sold that company's mortgage products. And I was like, Tina, I don't know what I'm going to do. I always thought I was going to take over this company one day. And she's like, you should come to work for us. And at the time they had a branch in Tampa. Our office was in Clearwater. I grew up around like the Palm Harbor area. And so they had a Tampa office that was already up and running and doing well. But they were about to open an Orlando location. And I was excited about that because growing up, I always thought it would be cool to live in Orlando and have a 407 area code. I grew up on 727. You grew up on 813, right? So for all the Florida people, you'll know what that is. But Orlando was like a new territory, and it was, it would need growth. It would need managers. And so for me, I was excited about that possibility, and it was kind of like a fresh start for us. And we had our first place together in Oviedo, Elmhurst Village. We drove by it the other day. That's where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Winter Springs. We had a townhouse there for about a year. Then we moved to Avalon Park. We lived there for a long time.
Yep.
And then Stony Brook, and then here on Lake Pickett. So it's cool to think how far things come.
Yep.
In that time, you know. So something that I thought of just going back to the marriage counseling is that, you know, it's good to get wise counsel. I think marriage counseling is great. Any counseling is great, which we could talk about that here coming up too. But, so, you know, it later came out that we didn't say his name, did we?
No.
Okay.
We're not
It later
going to.
came out that he was actually having an affair during the time he was giving us marriage counseling. And we found out on our honeymoon, I think.
Shortly after, yeah.
So, you know, that was a bummer. That was like a lot of emotions. And, you know, the reality is like we're all flawed human beings. And so while we want to seek wise counsel, I think it's good to also like test everything through God's word and through just, you know, a multitude of counsel, and not just take one person's word or opinion on something.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're a flawed human being. This year I've been going through the Bible recap, which my beautiful bride here hooked me up with. And she like led the way on that. And something that's really stuck out to me is, and I was talking to my Aunt Carrie about Uncle John about this. And I was like telling him, you know, reading through the Bible this year, I'm like, God's people were really bad. Like they did some really horrible stuff, and God loved them anyway. And John kind of looked at me like, yeah, like he didn't say it, but I felt it. Like, yeah, that's us. Like we're that. So, and I think of the story of David and Bathsheba, which a lot of people know that story. A lot of people know David and Goliath, same guy, different storylines, you know, and God still loved him. And so anyways, I don't know if you want to talk about counseling. That's kind of a jump. Do you want to talk about like early career?
Sure.
Childhood stuff? So interrupt this whenever you want. But early in my career, you know, I was starting over kind of. So I was in retail mortgage, which means like my customers were people who want to buy a house. I would do the loan. Or if you had a loan, you wanted to refinance it, I would do that directly with the consumer. My clients were mortgage brokers and small community banks. So it was a different customer, different market. And so I was kind of starting over. So I worked a lot of hours, and that was really hard. I think that was really hard on us. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, like before kids, when our kids were little.
Do you want me to say something good or bad?
Say both. Say the truth. Say both, because that's like what we're trying to help people.
Well, you know, I do have a degree. I graduated right before we got married. But my degree was in psychology, and I didn't really have like a good career path going forward. I had wanted to work at SeaWorld, and I actually did get an interview, or offered an interview, but when I kind of found out like the whole like job description and like what that was going to look like, I realized that if I wanted to be a mom, which was more important to me, then I was not going to be able to do that career, because you don't usually see people that are dolphin trainers that are pregnant. It's kind of probably not the best job to do when you're pregnant. So to me, being a mom was always my first thing. And so Josh and I wanted to have kids sooner than later. It actually took us a while to get pregnant with our first. But in order for me to stay at home, which is what our goal was, Josh had to work a lot to be able to get me to stay home. And so, you know, with our first two especially, it was hard. And then you went back to school before we
I was
had.
going to say that. She had a degree when we got married. I did not.
Yeah. But
I
your
had
career
this
didn't
sales
really
career.
call for a degree, but that was something that he wanted to do. But then that was kind of like after the recession, you were like, maybe I need to go back to school and get a degree so I can get into a different profession. One time he was thinking
Yeah.
of getting into a different profession. So that's kind of what started your going back to college.
Yeah.
And then I told you we're not having another child until you're done with school, because between
was a
working
lot.
and going to school at the time, we didn't see him much.
Looking
And
back, people asked, how did you do that? And I'm like, I actually have no idea. I think I slept like 4 hours a night for a couple of years.
you
I
would
mean, it was,
go,
like, crazy.
you would go to bed. No, you would get, because usually like would work overtime. You would come home late after the girls were asleep, and he would leave before they were awake. So you usually didn't see the girls much those first
Yeah.
few years.
Yeah. The Reader's Digest on that is that at the time I was working for companies that were like bank owned, and there was kind of an unspoken glass ceiling. Like if you didn't have a 4-year degree of some kind, like it was hard to move up. And so that's what started me going back to school part-time. And then when the Great Recession hit, I was like, maybe I need to do a different career altogether, because, at that
Yeah.
time, I mean, you could work 40, 50, 60 hours a week
Yeah.
and like make $3,000 a month. Like it was crazy. And I saw like CPAs and attorneys and accountants, like they work, they get paid. They work, they get paid. And I'm like, that sounds like a great deal. Like maybe I need to do that career. And that's what I went after for a little while. But then the more like how she looked into the dolphin training thing, I looked into that and saw like, okay, if I graduate with a 4-year degree or a master's degree, and I would start at this salary and work up, and I'm like, it's gonna be 10 more years before I could get to an income that would support our family. And in combination with that, and then one night I remember coming home and going to Jordan's bed to like tuck her, say a prayer, like talk to her. And I remember she looked at me kind of like, who are you?
You never told me that.
And that, like, I was like, what am I doing? Like, and so at that time I was working at a place where I was getting an hourly wage, and I would do overtime a lot. And it was enough to where we like knew we would be able to pay our bills and be able to have the Disney passes that we had. And like, that's another story. And so going back into sales though, I think where I went, I had a small base salary, but it wasn't enough. Like it was enough to buy groceries, but it wasn't enough like to pay our mortgage and everything else. So it was a scary risk, but a risk that I took and we talked about. And because at the end of the day, whatever the financial thing was, we're going to go through it together. And so we both agreed that like, yeah, let's get back into sales. And it was really hard for a while. I remember bouncing around to, that's part of my story and part of my career story, is bouncing around to different places, trying to find my way, trying to just survive and make it, going from place to place that had like different niche products and then they would change it, and then I would have to change my whole customer thing.
It was a lot different after
season.
the recession.
Yeah.
And just a side note, when I was thinking about with the recession, when Josh was talking about the girls and them being little and stuff, is I've heard a lot of couples say like when they get married, like, oh, we want to be like financially ready, and we want to like be prepared before we have kids. We want to like have everything in line. And let me just tell you, you can't. Okay. Because even if you think you do, something can come along and boom, you don't. I was actually 5 months pregnant with Juliana, our oldest, when Josh lost his job the first time.
And at that time I was making good money. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you want to say the amount, but like it was a good amount. Like we were ready. Like if anybody would have looked at that, like our expenses versus our income, like they would have been like, oh, you're good. Like just have as many kids as you want. Like you're golden. Right. And then
we didn't.
God had a different plan.
Right. Which, it could be anything from a career to a health crisis to like, I mean, there's any like things that can come your way, that would be like, oh, things have changed. Our financial situation is going to change. So, and then even after we had Juliana, when we had Jordan, you were working and we were, he actually lost his job the second time the month that Jordan was due. And
That was awesome.
we actually had insurance with his company until the end of that month, which had been end of July.
And it was like awesome insurance. It was
Her due date was the 7th of August. And Juliana came on her due date, and, you know, most kids will go to their due date or over. Jordan came a week early on the 31st of July. So thank you, Jordan. We didn't have to pay extra money.
we didn't have to pay that Cobra payment, boy. That is steep.
But again, like we had, you know, we thought we were fine at that point. And then again, you know, it was just a really rough market, and it was a really hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, you know, it was hard trying to find stability during those times because the market had changed a lot. And then I was chasing, in retrospect, what was the wrong thing.